In the heart of South Africa's Kruger Game Reserve, there lived a young lion named Ruto. He wasn't just any lion. Ruto was curious, bold, and full of restless energy. While most lions preferred to stick close to their pride, Ruto often wandered off alone, driven by a deep instinct to explore. Rangers in the reserve had fitted him with a tracking collar to monitor his movements, knowing his adventurous spirit could sometimes lead him into trouble. That morning, just as the golden sun began to stretch across the savanna, Ruto stirred from his resting spot. Something had caught his eye, a large, leafy tree standing tall near the riverbank. The breeze rustled its branches gently, and Ruto, ever the explorer, felt drawn to it. That simple moment, under the quiet light of dawn, would mark the beginning of an unforgettable adventure. That morning, Ruto felt especially curious. The old tree by the river had been there for years, but something about it seemed different today. Maybe it was the way the sunlight filtered through the branches, or the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. Whatever it was, Ruto couldn't resist. He padded quietly toward the tree, his golden brown coat glinting in the early light. Standing beneath its wide canopy, he tilted his head, studying the trunk. Then, with the confidence of a young lion full of energy, he began to climb. Now, lions aren't built for climbing trees, not the way leopards are. But Ruto had always done things a little differently. He dug his claws into the bark, pulling himself up one step at a time. The branches creaked under his weight, and leaves brushed against his face and sides. Higher and higher he went, searching for a better view. But just as he reached one of the upper branches, disaster struck. Unbeknownst to Ruto, a large beehive was tucked inside a hollow of the tree. When his paw scraped across it, the hive cracked open and fell, landing with a loud thud on a branch below. Instantly, a cloud of angry bees poured out, swarming in every direction. They were homeless now, confused and aggressive, and Ruto was the closest thing to a target. He felt the first sting on his shoulder, then another, and another. In seconds, his body was crawling with bees. Black dots covered his back, his legs, his face. He let out a roar of pain, swatting at the swarm with his massive paws. But there were too many. He lost his footing and leapt down from the tree, landing hard on the dry ground. Still, the bees followed. Ruto rolled on the grass, desperate to shake them off, but it only made them angrier. Their stings were sharp and relentless, setting his skin on fire. He roared again and again, sprinting toward the nearest swamp. Muddy water might be his only hope. As he threw himself into the cool muck, the sound of buzzing still filled the air. It was chaos, and Ruto was in real trouble. Back at the ranger station, the team was going through their usual morning routine when someone noticed something strange on the tracking monitor. Ruto's signal hadn't moved for a while too long. In fact, normally, he was always on the move, wandering through the brush or lounging in the shade. But now, the GPS showed him stuck in one spot near the riverbank. That was a red flag. Without hesitation, the Rangers sprang into action. They loaded up their truck with supplies and followed the signal deep into the reserve. When they arrived, what they saw left them stunned. Ruto, barely moving, was lying in the mud, and his body was covered in a thick, moving layer of bees. The poor lion looked like he had been through a war. Right away, they knew this was no ordinary rescue. An emergency plan had to be put in place. The team radioed for backup, calling in more staff along with protective gear, full-body suits, gloves, and masks, anything that could keep them safe from the angry bees. They also brought smoke canisters, nets, and special boxes to help drive the bees away and contain them safely. Time was critical. The longer Ruto stayed like that, the worse his condition would become. The rescue team quickly formed a strategy. One group would use smoke to disorient the bees, while another would try to remove them from Ruto's body as gently and safely as possible. Everyone knew the risks, but no one backed down. This wasn't just about saving an animal, it was about doing the right thing. Ruto needed them, and they weren't going to let him down. The rescue team didn't waste a second. Everyone suited up in full protective gear, thick gloves, heavy-duty suits, and mesh-covered masks. They looked more like astronauts than rangers. The plan was simple, but risky: use smoke to confuse the bees, then move in slowly and carefully to clear them off Ruto. The first group fired up the smoke canisters. A soft gray haze began to spread through the air, curling around the lion and the swarm. Almost immediately, the bees started to scatter, disoriented by the thick smoke. Some clung to the rangers' masks, but couldn't sting through, with the swarm slightly less aggressive. The second group crept in. One by one, they began removing bees from Ruto's fur, using gloved hands and soft brushes. Every handful of bees was carefully placed into boxes to prevent them from flying back. It was painstaking work, slow, steady, and tense. Ruto was barely conscious, panting weakly, his body twitching now and then from the pain. His golden coat was covered in angry welts, and his eyes, though half closed, followed the rescuers' every move for nearly 15 minutes. The team worked in silence, only the hum of bees and the occasional hiss of smoke filling the air. When the last patch of bees was finally lifted from Ruto's back, a soft sigh of relief passed through the team. They weren't out of the woods yet, but for the first time that morning, things felt a little more hopeful. Once the last bee was removed from Ruto's body, the team could finally get a good look at his condition, and it wasn't pretty. His golden coat was matted and dirty, and beneath it, his skin was swollen and red, inflamed from dozens, maybe hundreds of bee stings. His eyes were dull with exhaustion, and he was barely breathing. You could see the pain in every twitch of his muscles. He needed help, and fast. The veterinary team stepped in immediately. One ranger gently cradled Ruto's head, while another prepared an injection of painkillers and anti-inflammatory medicine. The needle slid into his leg, and within minutes, Ruto's heavy breathing began to slow. He was still hurting, but the edge of the pain had begun to fade. Next, they brought out cool water and soft cloths to gently clean the wounds. It took time. Every movement was slow and careful. The team didn't want to cause Ruto any more distress. After rinsing his skin, they applied ointment to the worst areas, rubbing it in carefully to reduce swelling and help with healing. Ruto didn't resist. Maybe he understood they were trying to help, or maybe he was just too tired to move. Either way, he lay still as they worked. Then came fluids, using a slow IV drip. They rehydrated his body and helped him recover from shock and heat. His body had been through so much, from painful stings to rolling in mud, and the trauma alone could have been fatal. But little by little, things began to turn. His breathing grew more even, and his ears flicked now and then as if sensing the world again. Seeing those small signs of life gave the team hope. They brought over a tray of soft, fresh meat at first. Ruto didn't respond, but slowly. He sniffed the air, leaned forward, and took a bite. It wasn't much, but it was everything. By late afternoon, Ruto had regained enough strength to sit upright. His eyes, though tired, looked more alert. The team knew it was time. They gently guided him onto a special transport vehicle, flat, wide, and lined with soft padding. Ruto didn't resist. It was as if he understood this ride was taking him home. The truck rolled slowly over the dusty paths of the reserve, weaving through tall grasses and quiet trees. All the while, the rangers kept an eye on the GPS, making sure they were heading toward the heart of the pride's territory. When they finally arrived, the sun was low in the sky, casting a golden hue across the savanna. The rangers opened the back gate. Ruto stepped out carefully, his legs still shaky. He lifted his head and sniffed the air. The scent of his pride was unmistakable. Not far ahead, a small group of lions lay resting beneath a cluster of dry trees. One lifted its head, then another, low. Familiar rumbles filled the air. Ruto took a few slow steps forward. There was no growling, No tension, just quiet recognition. One of the lions, likely a brother or close companion, stood and approached him. Ruto lowered his head and gently rubbed it against the other lion's neck, like he was telling a long story without saying a word. The rescue team stayed back, watching silently. They didn't need to interfere. Nature was doing exactly what it was meant to do. Before leaving, a ranger made a few notes in a worn leather notebook: Ruto's vitals, the treatment plan, and a simple observation: reunited with pride, monitoring to continue. As the truck drove away, the team felt a kind of quiet satisfaction. They hadn't just saved a lion, they'd helped him find his way back. And in the stillness of the savannah, under a sky turning amber, that felt like enough.